Old people's homes. If there were ever a happier and more joyful place on earth, I have yet to hear of it. As you can see, this is a lovely one as well, right on the seaside, in a lovely town, known for its murdering of innocent women for superstitious gobshite. A fake bus shelter with a discarded suitcase and walking stick faces it, and we shall get into all of that later. This is the Sandy Coves Convalescent Home, or however the fuck you pronounce that. A place for the sick and old to rest. Supposedly. There are many things inside we must look at, but around the back is the first thing I want to show you. One of its elderly residents can be found here, dead in a wheelchair. They seem to have come out for a smoke, and died in the initial blast. Yes, I find the boarded up door weird as well, but it's not the oddest thing here. So let's take a gander at the rest of it. The inside has partly gone to shit, and when we first arrive, we will be tended by Mr. Handy's, and then synths who barge in and wreck the place shortly after. Our first corpse inside is this woman here, who died while doing jet on the toilet. They either OD'd or the blast killed them, which seems the more likely option when we see the other corpses here. Not sure if she was a resident here or not. Back at the desk, the now dead Mr. Handy gives you the key to Gladys Room, a woman we shall soon learn about from this terminal. So each resident has a key, and the first entry tells us where they are located. There are 6 keys to find, and Gladys makes 7. They're easy to find, and I already picked them up, so you won't see me finding them unfortunately. The next entry is about the resident we got the key for. Gladys seems to like to escape the home, and she seems to be capable. We don't know why yet. The Handys are malfunctioning, which explains why they're still doing their jobs even though all the residents are dead. Also, the bus stop is fake, but it seems like the police don't know about that. So maybe it wasn't allowed, and it was probably a way to catch out escapees, which is pretty sad. The safes next to the terminal all require keys, and contain an assortment of medical supplies each, which unfortunately I've already looted. The kitchen, however, is worth talking about. The door on the left leads out to where we found the dead smoker, but I'm not sure who closed it off. The rest of the kitchen gives us the first pieces of evidence that someone may have been here after the bombs hit. A chem station that is clearly post-wars in the corner, and beer can be found littering the floor and fridge. Mutated fish were in the process of being chopped up with a machete, something that's unlikely to have happened pre-war. A dead chef can be found in the corner, though I think this is likely the pre-war chef for the home. It looks like they were making something to put in that bottle, perhaps some warm milk. Back out in the hall, we can start exploring some of the rooms, with the first being this one on the right. It's got a lot of boat stuff in it, so that would make it Mortimer's. Someone seems to have tried to fish in the bathtub, and was successful? I have questions, many of them. Also, this was most likely the doing of whoever took up residence here. The key is in the white boat, and next to that white boat is a model of a swan paddle boat, the same one found in Swan's Pond. Perhaps Mortimer enjoyed going to it. Also, he liked the drink. We find him dead in his bed, and judging by the hat, he seems to have been in the Navy at some point. I mean, look, he's even reaching for it in death. Ooh, what the fuck. Opposite his room is the main hall for the building, where many of the old people are dead. This gentleman here seems to have died reading the morning paper, requiring a magnifying glass to do so, because he was probably blind as fuck. The next table has these 2 old women, who were eating what was most likely their breakfast, when the blast took them. Fuck your breakfast, old woman. The last table has people playing chess. One of them nude? So perhaps it was strip chess? Also, the way the head of the naked one's fallen off is absolutely horrifying. I mean, look at that, it's like an eternal scream. The last room down the hall's pretty empty, and it doesn't seem to belong to any of the named residents that we've seen. It does, however, lead us past a collapsed floor, obstructing our progress. The first room on the other side of said obstruction belonged to Margaret, as the fertilizer and plants give it away. As you can see, not only are the plants everywhere, but almost all of them are dead as well, and placed in odd places, especially the ones in the toilet. The keys are among the fertilizer. Margaret herself is dead on her bed, laid out with all her flowers. Also, what the hell is up with this fern? It's been centuries and it looks healthy. Perhaps more evidence that, until recently, someone else was here. Also, it looks like Margaret was sick enough that she required an IV drip of some sort. The door to the room next to her is collapsed, though it does offer a way up to the next floor. Instead, We need to take the next door along to get inside. The next room along has many newspapers thrown about the place, as this was the room of Edward. Once again, I doubt he was the one who put that in the toilet. His key is by his typewriter, and if I had to guess, I would say that is what he is, a writer or perhaps a journalist, which would explain the interest with the newspapers. It seems Edward here died while reading a book, which is not a bad way to go, watched over by the Spirit Moose. Back out in the hall, a desperate attempt has been made to fix one of the terminals, and by desperate, I mean they stabbed it with a screwdriver. On the next floor, if we take the first door on the left, we come to the room of Gladys, whose key we already have. The room is bleeding patriotism, and also has an immortal fern. Present is enough evidence to clearly explain why they thought she was dangerous. She was clearly in the army at one point, with many objects that one would have, like a combat knife for stabbing people, and a bucket for shitting in. She has a very small bed, though whether that was choice or punishment for her behaviour, I do not know. Also, yes, she had explosives, and they were not hidden well at all. They were out in plain view. So, good job there, orderlies of Sandy Coves. The door opposite her room leads to the landing overlooking the main hall. And this cat. Now I have many things to say about this cat, and many things to say about the other cat. So yeah, there's at least 2 cats, and maybe a third that died / I killed? Not too sure about that. So yeah, cats and 3 cat bowls, which is where the key is. This was Catherine's room, and she died here in her bed. Now remember how I thought it was weird that some plants were still okay, and some food had been eaten recently? How the fuck are these cats alive? I mean, for such an exact number, so close to the original amount, or the original amount, is insane. Could they have bred? Yes, but there will be loads of them, not the same fucking amount. The next room is actually pretty empty, and we do not know who it belonged to. Next we take a left at the collapsed floor, and come to a painter's room. Ethel's room. It seems she was quite active up until she died, as the room has many paintings, as well as some paint and brushes, which is where her key is. A lot of the painting depicts boats or the sea, which may be why she came here. We find her curled up around a painting that I think is depicting a cat, but I'm not too sure. So perhaps she'd like Catherine's cats. We don't know who the next room belonged to, but it appears they were killed by the falling ceiling, and judging by their bones and how they're everywhere, it did a lot of damage. The next room along is pretty weird. It's Randall's, and just like another man, nay, God, with the same name, this room is interesting. So he has a very creepy mole rat head mounted on his wall. I mean, just look at the teeth, Jesus Christ. Also, a plunger being used properly? We must tread carefully. So then we have mirelurk claws mounted on the wall, and a radstag head. Wait a minute, a mole rat? The fuck? Yeah, this room is the most confusing to me, and all but confirms someone else was here. None of this stuff was around pre-war. I mean, he had a normal deer head, the terminal tells us that, but not this one, which means someone else took his trophies and mounted these ones instead. The next room is this library, or common room to the right, and some poor old deer has been murdered by a bookcase of sorts. It looks like she was trying to get a chessboard down, perhaps the blast caused the whole shelf to come down, or it startled her and she brought it down herself. Or it happened before the blast and no one cared to help. Also, no way they had bowling here. I'm calling bullshit. The gentleman in the corner just died in their chair, which is a bit boring if I am honest. The sitting area at the end has nothing of note except a collapsed floor, which, like the old man there, is a letdown. The Sandy Coves Convalescent Home. Convalescent Home, whatever. A wonderful place for the old to grow older. Straight after we enter, we find its malfunctioning handies, still taking care of the place, only for it to be suddenly invaded by synths. The terminal here tells us of 7 residents, all of who we've looked at. Gladys was formerly in the military, and seemed to keep trying to escape, possibly to the fake bus stop outside, where someone did actually leave their things. Also, she had grenades. Edward seemed to be a writer or reporter of some description, based on all the papers. Ethel was a painter who liked sea-related paintings. Margaret liked flowers and to garden. Mortimer liked boats and was possibly formerly in the Navy. Then there's Ethel and her immortal cats. And last but not least, Randall, who managed to hunt things that did not exist when he died. So the cat still being alive, and the discarded food about the place suggests that someone was still living here until recently. I mean, okay, the food could have been discarded long ago, even if that does seem far-fetched, and the handies may have still fed the cats. Perhaps they had instructions to remove any more than 3 cats, which means there's a mass cat grave somewhere, as the cats, if they did breed, should number in the dozens or hundreds by now. But all that aside, those trophies in Randall's room make no sense. Okay, so Bethesda could have gotten lazy and just fucked the Radstag head in there, but the rest of them? Nah. Someone else was living here. They were eating out of the cans and eating fish, maybe even eating the cats. The alive ferns could have been their doing, or the handies could have watered them. Margaret's other plants were not watered because it was not in the handies' programming. But there is not an explanation for the mole rat or the mirelurk claws. Someone else was living here. Perhaps someone the Institute was after, which would explain why the synths showed up in the first place. In the end, we may never know. All we do know is that many elderly and interesting people with long life stories lived here, and it was here that these stories came to an end. So before I get to the usual ending of the video, I want to point you to the Lone Vault Wanderers channel, who you've probably already seen a couple links floating around this video, because this weekend I'm doing a collab, a short one mind, but a collab nonetheless, on his channel with several other Fallout YouTubers, talking about Bethesda and E3. So go check that out. The links will be in this video and in the description. The most interesting old people's home in all of the Commonwealth, and the interesting people that live there. I hoped you liked this look at all of it. If you did like it, give the video a like, and if you want to get regular updates, subscribe. Any suggestions for lore or future videos should be left in the comments below. Better yet, go onto my subreddit so we can discuss them in more detail. It's linked in the description. If you wish to, you can support me on Patreon. £1 or $1, I ask for no more. If there are any rewards that I don't have that you would like to see, please message me and I'll take them into consideration. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook to get regular updates or have a wee chat. Any business you wish to discuss, email me at thenthapple.business@gmail.com and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, goodbye.